Hey there. I've been curious about Somalia and its culture lately. Can you tell me what the primary religion is in Somalia? Sure thing. Religion plays a significant role in Somalia's culture and identity. The majority of the population in Somalia practices Islam, specifically Sunni Islam. It's not just a religion but a way of life for most Somalis. That's interesting. Can you tell me more about how Islam is practiced in Somalia? Are there any unique customs or traditions associated with it? Absolutely. Somali Islam is deeply rooted in the Sunni tradition, but it also has some unique elements. Friday is a particularly significant day for Muslims in Somalia, as it's a day of congregational prayer and a time for communal gatherings. Many people dress in traditional attire and attend mosque services on Fridays. That sounds like a rich tradition. Are there any specific religious festivals or events that are widely celebrated in Somalia? Yes, there are a few significant Islamic festivals celebrated in Somalia. Eid al-Fitr, which marks the end of Ramadan, is one of the most important. It's a time for Muslims to come together, offer prayers, and exchange gifts and food with family and friends. Another important festival is Eid al-Adha, which commemorates Ibrahim's willingness to sacrifice his son Ismail. Muslims in Somalia also observe the Islamic New Year and the birthday of the Prophet Muhammad. It's fascinating to learn about these celebrations. How about the religious leaders and scholars in Somalia? Are there any prominent figures who influence the religious landscape? Yes, there are religious leaders and scholars who have significant influence in Somalia. Imams, who lead prayers at mosques, are respected figures in their communities. Moreover, there are Islamic scholars who provide religious guidance and interpretations of Islamic law. These scholars are often sought after for religious counsel and education. However, it's important to note that religious leadership in Somalia is decentralized, with various local leaders and scholars rather than a single centralized authority. That's an interesting distinction. I've also heard that there's a mystical Sufi tradition within Islam. Is Sufism practiced in Somalia, and if so, how does it coexist with mainstream Sunni Islam? Yes, Sufism is practiced in Somalia, and it coexists with mainstream Sunni Islam. In fact, Sufism has a long history in Somalia and has had a profound influence on the culture and religious practices of the country. Many Somalis are followers of Sufi orders, which emphasize spiritual experiences, closeness to God, and the teachings of Sufi saints. Sufi practices include dhikr, remembrance of God, Sufi music, and the veneration of saints' tombs. While some may view these practices as unconventional, they are an integral part of Somali Islamic identity. It's intriguing to see how diverse religious practices can coexist within a single faith. Are there any challenges or issues related to religious diversity or tensions in Somalia? Yes, there have been historical and contemporary challenges related to religious diversity and tensions in Somalia. The country has experienced periods of conflict and political instability, which have sometimes been intertwined with religious differences. Additionally, there have been instances of extremist groups attempting to impose a more rigid and extremist interpretation of Islam. However, it's essential to recognize that the majority of Somalis practice a moderate form of Sunni Islam and reject extremism. The diverse religious landscape is generally a source of cultural richness rather than significant conflict. That's a crucial distinction to make. It's unfortunate when extremist ideologies overshadow the peaceful aspects of a religion. On a different note, how does religion intersect with daily life in Somalia? Are there any specific religious practices or rituals that are commonly observed? Religion is deeply interwoven into the daily life of Somalis. Daily prayers, 5 times a day, are a fundamental religious practice, and many people make an effort to attend mosque services regularly. Fasting during the holy month of Ramadan is another essential religious practice, where Muslims abstain from food and drink during daylight hours. Somali culture is also heavily influenced by Islamic values, such as generosity, hospitality, and community support. Many social customs and traditions are rooted in Islamic principles. It's heartening to hear how religion can positively influence daily life and values. I'm also curious about the role of women in religious life in Somalia. Are there opportunities for women to be religious leaders or scholars? The role of women in religious life in Somalia has evolved over the years. While traditional gender roles have often limited women's visibility in religious leadership positions, there has been a growing recognition of women's contributions to religious and community life. Some women serve as religious teachers and educators, especially in educating young girls about Islamic principles. Additionally, women have been active in Sufi orders, participating in dhikr sessions and other spiritual activities. That's good to hear that there's recognition of women's contributions. It's essential for any society to embrace diversity and inclusivity. On a broader scale, how does the government in Somalia approach matters related to religion? Somalia has experienced political instability and changes in government over the years, which have influenced its approach to matters related to religion. In the past, different governments have had varying levels of involvement in religious affairs. Some have sought to promote a more conservative interpretation of Islam, while others have advocated for a more moderate approach. The current government, as of my last knowledge update in 2021, was working to establish a more inclusive and moderate form of Islam as the official state religion. However, it's important to note that the relationship between the government and religion is complex and subject to change. It seems like the relationship between a religion and government is indeed a complex issue in many places. I appreciate your insights into the religious landscape of Somalia. Is there anything else you'd like to share about this topic? I think it's crucial to understand that religion in Somalia is not a monolithic entity. It's a complex tapestry of beliefs, practices, and traditions that have evolved over centuries. While Islam is the dominant religion, the diversity within Somali Islamic practices and the coexistence of different traditions, including Sufism, contribute to the rich cultural and religious fabric of the country. It's also essential to approach discussions about religion in Somalia with sensitivity and respect for the diverse beliefs and practices of its people. Thank you for emphasizing that point. It's a valuable reminder that diversity should be celebrated and respected. I've learned a lot about the religious landscape in Somalia, and I appreciate your willingness to share your knowledge and insights on this topic. You're very welcome. I'm glad I could provide you with information about Somalia's religion and culture. If you have any more questions, or if there's anything else you'd like to know, feel free to ask. Discussions about different cultures and religions can be a great way to promote understanding and tolerance.